Welcome to Trump Wire, your trusted source for breaking headlines, global insights, and sharp analysis from around the world. If you're new here, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you never miss an update. As dawn broke over Shanghai, the city's skyline shimmered with the promise of a new era. The world's attention was elsewhere, but in these quiet hours, history was quietly being rewritten. In Hamburg, a routine payment flashed across the screen, not in US dollars as had been the norm for decades, but in digital yuan, China's new sovereign digital currency. This seemingly small transaction marked the quiet completion of China's ambitious decade-long Digital Silk Road project, a vision that had grown from a blueprint into a global reality. It was a digital golden spike, a symbolic and literal connection that wove China's economic network directly into the heart of global commerce, bypassing the traditional foundations of American global power. Instead of armies or warships, China used code, innovation, and long-term vision to expand its influence. For years, Beijing invested not just in ports and railways that physically connected continents, but also in the invisible arteries of the digital age: fiber optic cables, 5G networks, and sprawling data centers across Asia, Africa, and Latin America, laying the groundwork for a new digital order. The goal was clear: to create a parallel digital ecosystem powered by Chinese technology, and, now, its own currency. The digital yuan became the required toll for this new road. From Kenyan merchants in bustling markets to Brazilian miners deep in the Amazon, global trade partners were increasingly incentivized or even required to use it, integrating themselves into China's expanding digital sphere. This wasn't a hostile takeover, but a patient, strategic move, one built on years of negotiation, investment, and technological leadership. The world, especially America, was just waking up to the scale and significance of this new reality, as headlines began to reflect a shifting balance of power. The US dollar's dominance, bedrock of American prosperity and global influence for 70 years, was now being directly challenged for the first time in generations. The launch of a viable, integrated alternative sent tremors through the global economy, as markets scrambled to adjust to the new landscape. The digital spike had been driven deep. Its impact was just beginning to ripple across the Pacific and beyond, reshaping the flow of global trade. The rules of global trade had changed overnight, and the world would never be the same. China's digital yuan mandate was simple but revolutionary. As of August 2025, Belt and Road nations received major benefits: preferential loans, reduced tariffs, priority market access, if they settled trade in digital yuan. All future BRI projects had to use the eCNY for financing and major transactions. The digital yuan is programmable money, allowing Beijing to control and track how funds are spent abroad. This reduced corruption and ensured Chinese interests were served. Chinese tech giants quickly integrated eCNY into their global apps, making cross-border payments seamless and bypassing the US dollar. China built a new international payment system, parallel to SWIFT, but fully under its control. For decades, the dollar gave America immense leverage. Now, China offered the world an escape route. The global financial game had a new player and new rules. The digital yuan mandate struck at the very heart of US economic power, sending ripples through the global financial system and challenging the status quo that has existed for decades. The dollar's role as the world's reserve currency, a position that has long given America unparalleled influence over international trade and finance. For generations, countries around the world have held vast reserves of dollars for safety and stability, keeping its value high and US borrowing costs low, while reinforcing America's economic dominance. Now, as Belt and Road Initiative nations begin shifting to the digital yuan for trade and reserves, global demand for dollars is set to fall, potentially altering the very foundation of international finance. The US government will face higher borrowing costs, squeezing already tight budgets for infrastructure, education, and healthcare, and forcing difficult choices on domestic priorities. Wall Street and American companies will see more currency volatility and uncertainty, making it harder to plan for the future and increasing risks for investors and businesses alike. The era of dollar-backed stability is under threat, as the world begins to question whether the dollar can maintain its historic role. America's ability to impose sanctions, long a cornerstone of its foreign policy, will weaken as more countries transact outside the dollar system, reducing the reach of US influence. China has built a parallel economic superhighway, diverting not just trade but also global influence and financial flows away from the US, creating new centers of power. The shift isn't explosive but a steady, grinding pressure that is quietly reshaping America's economic landscape, one policy and one transaction at a time. The US must now rethink how it projects power and maintains influence in a world where financial leverage is no longer guaranteed. The world's financial architecture is no longer a one-way street. It's becoming a complex, multi-directional network where new players are rising. The dollar's supremacy is no longer guaranteed, and its decline could have far-reaching consequences for economies everywhere. America faces a new era of competition, one it can't ignore, as rivals challenge its leadership on every front, from technology to finance. The economic shockwave from this transition will be felt for decades, shaping the fortunes of nations and the lives of billions. The global balance is shifting, quietly but inexorably, as the world adapts to a new era of financial power and uncertainty. China's move isn't just about currency, it's about data. Every ECNY transaction feeds information back to Beijing, giving China a real-time view of global economic flows. This data powers AI, letting China predict trends and spot vulnerabilities worldwide. The digital world is splitting, one sphere led by the US, another by China's state-controlled, data-centric model. American tech giants may find themselves locked out of China's expanding digital ecosystem. Chinese firms like Huawei and ZTE gain an edge, offering integrated tech and financing to developing nations. The US must now compete on systems and standards, not just innovation. The digital battlefield is the architecture of the internet itself. China's data advantage could become its most powerful weapon in the global tech race. How does this affect everyday Americans? The changes will be gradual but real. As the dollar weakens, imported goods, from electronics to clothes, will get more expensive. Oil, long priced in dollars, may shift to digital yuan, making gas prices more volatile and likely higher. Financial sectors tied to dollar dominance may slow, while demand grows for cybersecurity and digital currency experts. The US will push to bring manufacturing home, but this will be costly and complex. The era of cheap imports and stable prices, underwritten by the dollar, is ending. Americans will face higher costs and more economic uncertainty. Prosperity will require adaptation and competition, not just reliance on the old system. The global foundation has shifted. Life will be more expensive and the world more contested. The American way of life must now be actively defended. The digital yuan mandate has upended global alliances. Developing nations now weigh China's fast, condition-free development against traditional Western ties. China's BRI offers financing, trade, and integration, sidestepping Washington's influence. America's alliances, once taken for granted, must now be earned. The US must work closely with Europe and Asia to build a credible alternative. New digital standards, more investment, and united trade policies. The world is now bipolar, Washington and Beijing, each with its own system and vision. Every nation must navigate this rivalry, and America must persuade, not just lead. The world is splitting into two distinct digital and economic spheres. A new kind of digital Cold War is emerging, reshaping the global landscape. This division is not just about technology but about values, influence, and the future of power. The United States will accelerate efforts to develop its own digital dollar, emphasizing privacy and transparency as core principles. This move aims to rally democratic allies and set a global standard for digital currencies, countering rival systems. As tensions rise, global supply chains will realign along new geopolitical lines. This shift will slow the pace of globalization, making international trade more complex and unpredictable, and forcing businesses to rethink their strategies. Companies around the world will face tough choices about which digital ecosystem to join. Cross-border business will become more challenging, with regulatory barriers and political risks increasing. For America, a long-term strategy is essential, investing in innovation, strengthening alliances, and clearly articulating a compelling digital vision to inspire both domestic and international partners. The privileges and certainties of the past are fading. In this new era, adaptation and resilience are not just important, they are essential for survival and success. China's bold moves have ended the era of uncontested American primacy, ushering in a new age of global competition and technological rivalry. The future remains unwritten. This competition could spark unprecedented innovation and progress, or it could deepen divisions and fuel conflict. The outcome depends on the choices we make now. America's ability to adapt, lead, and unite its allies will be tested as never before in this rapidly changing digital era. The quiet transaction in Shanghai was more than a financial event, it was the starting gun for a race to define the 21st century, setting the stage for a new global order.